Howdy howdy everybody. I'm just a bad dog and we're doing just bad dog things. I think you can kind of tell right now that I have a new model. He's pretty cool. He moves. He talks. His hair moves. It's pretty fun. And I'm going to talk about how I made him today. So I used the PNGtuber program HONK, and as of right now it's $12, and it hasn't been updated in a couple of years to my knowledge, but from what I used of it, it still is a fairly decent and usable program. And I'm going to show you how I set up my guy to be able to look around, to have his hair move, to have different mouth shapes when he talks, and etc. So let's hop into it. Making the art for the PNGtuber is probably the easiest part. It's just kind of like I did everything symmetrical so that it would be easier to like separate things and keep it consistent. Honestly, with the program you can do just about anything that you really wanted. I would suggest maybe not doing a full body like a live 2D model is, mostly just because the zoom feature. The more and more you zoom out and the more you zoom in, the harder it is to be able to keep up with all of the moving parts of the program. Well, I kind of just went from a waist up, which is what I already had for my persona in the first place, so really it didn't change much. I just kind of gave him a little bit of an upgrade. This sketch actually took me 2 tries to get it right. So the best way to set up a character for HONK and you want them to move around, I watched a few tutorials of how people separated live 2D models just to have a general idea. What I would suggest is that the more that you separate, the less hassle of something not working. This altogether took a lot of layers, but not nearly as many as I expected it to have. I separated the arms and the body. I separated the necklaces into 2 separate pieces. I thought the hair was going to be more layers, but I actually just ended up doing the bangs and then the back of the hair as 2 separate layers, and that was it. And then the face I did from the jaw and the whole head, and then I did the eyes. The eyes is probably what took the most layers. I separated those into 3 different things. I separated those into the eyeliner of the eye, the pupil, and then the whites of the eye, just for the fact of that he could still look around. And then I also did end up putting like the eyelids and the eyebrows on a separate layer. Is it perfect? No. Does when you look around there's still white that's like clipping into the skin? A little bit. But what I really found with HONK was that if you have one layer over another layer, the same exact color, there's going to be a little bit of that little pixelated line that you'll be able to see, because what I originally had planned to do was color half of his face on one layer and then do it on a separate layer, and when I put it into the program, you could very clearly see the 2 layers separated. So that is one thing that I want you to keep in mind, because I got away with it somehow, because where his eyes and my line art is thick and he has the hair in his face, it all kind of just seamlessly flowed into one another, so that the layers that are separated would be hidden under like the middle of the layer above it, so there was no problem in showing through the layers, the pixelated lines or anything like that. To separate the layers themselves, what I ended up doing was I actually went one at a time with different parts of the body, and I outlined it, and then I colored it, and then I merged that layer into its own thing. Essentially what you're doing with your PNGtuber is you're taking them apart like a puzzle, and each part of them is the puzzle piece. so that when you put them into the HONK program, all that has to be done is you reconnect the pieces of the puzzle that you have made, and then boom, they will be moving and they will look around and jump. Well, now I'm gonna hop into the program and kind of walk you through how I set everything up. Once you start in the program, you will be met with this little guy. He's pretty neat. He's already set up and ready to go, but you'll notice that when you're talking, he's not moving. So one thing that you do have to make sure of is that you have your mic selected, and then to actually get him to move and talk, you will have to click off the program itself. So once I click off, he's moving, he's hopping, he's having a great time. So to get your character into HONK, you will have to go to the folder that you downloaded, and in it will have a character folder. Once you click into that, you have to click at the bottom, new character. Once you do that, it generates its own folder, where then when you go into that, there is a folder called images, and that is where you will upload all of your PNG layers. So layers, you can tell, are over here. We've got eye left, eye right, all of it. So let me show you how to actually get your character in. You go here. If you didn't put a number in the front of their name, they'll be at the bottom. But if you put a 0 or an A, they will be at the top and they will automatically load in. So one thing that I will let y'all know is that this zoom feature is actually probably going to be the first thing you see. So when I first uploaded my character, this is what he looked like. And it's just you have to zoom out, and that's it. That's all that it was. So to actually add your character, because once you go to that folder, they will not have your character here. What you have to do is you have to create a layer, and it will show you all the layers that you have made. So what I did is I went A, B, C, D, and I just uploaded the layers like that. And the layers will upload from top down in the way that you select them. I would suggest going with A, B, C, because once you get out here, it does help a lot more, and it helps organize it, and also the program itself recognizes the alphabetical order. So that, do a 1, 2, 3 or ABC, something like that, to help you keep up with what layer goes where. It really helped that I had watched some live 2D tutorials beforehand to kind of have a general idea of what I should do with the layer. So when you're drawing, we typically do just what we see. We do the outline and then that's it, because there is no thoughts of our character moving at all. But with HONK, you have to kind of think about, oh, okay, well, this character is going to be moving. And with that, you have to think about, well, what's going to show if his head moves. So if his head moves to the side, you're going to see a little bit more of his neck. So that's why when it came down to it, for his body, I pushed this up higher so that when he looks around, there's no way of there being any clipping through or no blocks of space that has nothing, to make it seem a lot more natural when he does move around. And that's kind of why I also separated the eyes into 4 separate parts, because I wanted him to be able to move freely and also to look around. So I did the full pupil, and then I did the whites of his eyes, and I did his eyebrows, and then I also did the eyeliner itself. That way they all simultaneously work together. And honestly, when you're creating any kind of model that moves or acts like this, the eyes and the mouth are going to be the most complex parts of it. In my experience, I think the eyes are the more complex part because there's so many different moving factors that you have to keep up with. How I did that is for the eyes and the mouth, I both labeled them differently, just a little bit. So with the eyeliner, I put it as it's layer C, but it's 1 because C2 in the eyeliner is the blinking animation, which I will show how you upload that here in a second. And I did the same thing with the mouth. If it's I1 is mouth closed, I2 is mouth open. So that makes it easy for me to start talking about how to get them to actually start talking. So when you click each layer, you have an option to edit it. So you want to be very, very specific when you pick the layer that you're going to be editing for the mouth to move. So we go to the mouth closed, and then up at the top there is a little picture where we edit sprite, and it will open a menu. So you want to leave blink closed unless you just want the actual layer to change every few moments, because that is what the blink section will do. So the thing with Honk that's really cool is it has all these different mouth shapes that it keeps up with. You don't have to do all of this, but it is one of the highlights of the feature, and I think that that's what makes the price point of it worth it, because a lot of other PNGtuber programs do not have the lip syncing. So we've got all the different mouth shapes, and I'll put a picture on the screen to kind of give you an idea of what different mouth shapes are when they are making different sounds. You don't have to do all of these because this is a lot of drawing and a lot of figuring out. If you are an animator, the lip syncing shouldn't be too difficult. If you've never done it before, it can be very daunting. So if I was going to give you a suggestion, I would say start with your vowels A, E, I, O, and U, and then I would go into the more distinct sounds like CH, SH, TH, just different mouth shapes. And now I'm going to talk about how I actually get him to move around. So if you watch my model, his eyes follow the cursor, and so does his body. So I'm going to break down each of the ways that I get him to move. I'm going to start off with the back of the hair first. The back of the hair does move with the body, but also if you notice, when he talks, it moves a little more. And that's because when you select it, you have a choice to click rotates on speech, and you can do it a tiny bit, low, medium, high, extreme, or ultimate. This is just of like however chaotic you want it to be. I set mine at very low just because I wanted it to be a little bit of like a simulation of a hair bounce. And then once you select that, there will be a small circle. It's typically more of like in the middle. So this is the anchor, and this is where it will specifically rotate from. So you want to put it right at the back of the head. Basically think of this as a thumbtack, and the thumbtack is holding the image in place while you push it side to side. Now to get the actual body to move in itself, you will have to do a lot of the layers over and over again. They don't have to be perfect. I didn't do them perfect, and it still came out perfectly fine to my liking. It's just kind of one of those things where you have to tweak it and finesse it, and then eventually find what you're happy with. Because again, each model is going to be a little bit different. So I started relatively with the nose, because the nose is kind of like your bullseye of your character. Again, your nose is kind of the focal point, and you're leading with your nose when you're with your PNGtuber often, especially if they're forward facing. So how you add is you go up to this little eye and you click look at camera, and then you click a look box or a look circle. There's several, you can pick whichever one you want, and then you will get this little look distance. So this is pretty much where you've got to really play with it and just see what you like, because each person has a different ideal of what they want their character to move like, and it's literally, it's just a scale. So you can make it big or you can make it small. I typically lift mine a little small because, again, where it is just different layers, I didn't want him moving too much. That way the layering process would have been easier and there would have been no chunks of just blank space. And you will have to do this for every single layer that you want to move. So it's not just like you do the body and you do the nose and that's it. You got to do anything that's connected to the head or the body that you want to also move. Now, your OBS may be different than mine, but I tried to keep this as neutral as possible. What you're going to do to get your PNGtuber into OBS is you're going to come down to sources and you're going to hit the plus button. And then you're going to go up to game capture. I'm going to name this PNGtuber just so I know exactly what it is, and hit OK. What you want to do first is make sure that your capture cursor is turned off. That way that it won't capture your cursor over top of your PNGtuber. And then you want to go to mode, capture a specific window, and then in the window tab, go down to HONK, and it will bring up your guy. So just hit OK. And you'll notice in my case, I have a magenta background. That's just easiest for me because my guy has green eyes, and if I use the normal green color, it takes away a lot of his eyes. So in HONK, I just changed the background to a magenta. To change the background to make it transparent for you, you go to the PNGtuber source you just made, right click it, and go to filters. Once you're in filters, under effect filters, you're going to hit the plus button and hit chroma key. Just confirm that, and chroma key automatically will be set to green. Mine's magenta, so I'm going to go to magenta and then hit close. And now your PNGtuber will be transparent. You can lay it over top of things. You can change the size, move it around, whatever you need to do in OBS to make it work. And that's how I made my PNGtuber. I hope y'all enjoyed this tutorial. I don't really make tutorials. I've never made one, so this is my first. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it helped. If you have any further questions, I will be in the comments able to help where I can, answer any questions that you may have. So don't be afraid to ask. And the links for everything that I used for this will be in the description. I hope you all have a good rest of your day, and make PNGtubers. Have fun. Try new programs. It's scary, but at the same time, it's really rewarding, and I think more people should try it. Have a good day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.